This is Visionary New Earth Leaders Podcast with me, Jenny Lyon, empowering visionary healers, entrepreneurs and leaders ready to actualize their fullest potential by expanding their consciousness and embodying 5D leadership and blending cutting-edge energy tools with business innovation and strategy to create impact and raise the world's vibration. I'm your host, Jenny Lyon Rainbow Anderson, and I am a New Earth business mentor, a channel and master healer. I'm also the leader of my own business. I have 23 plus years experience in energy work, mentorship and coaching. I'm a married mother of 2 based outside London in the UK. If you're ready to step into New Earth leadership and 5D consciousness, this is the channel to tune into and learn about embodied New Earth leadership, the power of self, energetic solutions to leadership, spiritual entrepreneurship, and joyful feminine creation. This is the vortex supporting the leaders into the new earth. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Visionary New Earth Leaders. Today we are going to talk about what a spiritual rebirth is. And this episode today will be really suitable for any human right now who feel that you are going through an awakening, or you feel that you have had an awakening in the past and it changed you from the inside out, or if you're simply very curious about what a spiritual rebirth is and why that happens to humanity right now. So let me give you a little bit of a backdrop first, because if you listen to the show and if you're into awakening and you are fully on board with the idea that the world is ascending, we are as a species moving into a higher vibration, which means that our human selves have to kind of upgrade to this higher vibration, which means it's going to challenge our ego. It's going to challenge parts of ourselves which are not so evolved yet. And that is exactly why a spiritual rebirth sometimes happens to people. So I'm going to break this down a little bit first. So if you are sort of familiar with ascension in itself, it basically means that a civilization like humanity on Earth right now, we're going through an awakening and we're going to a higher plane of existence, which means we are moving away from separation consciousness into unity consciousness. And the process is happening right now. But the process is kind of slow in some areas and a little bit faster in some other areas. So what is really important to understand is that we are all, as a species, exposed to the same solar flares, to the same vibrations and the light coming into the earth space. We are exposed to the same things, but we all react differently, or some people feel it really strongly and some people don't feel it so much, and some people really feel it's very difficult to stay on Earth, so they actually even decide to leave the Earth plane. So what are these vibrations? So when it comes to energy and frequency, from a sort of physics or scientific point of view, what is happening is that from an energy level is that we are raising the vibration from 3D to 5D. And as we know, everything in 3D is solid. The chair that you're sitting on, or the food that you're eating, or the house that you built, it's in 3D. It's a 3-dimensional structure. And we are moving into a 5th-dimensional structure, which means that to bring that level of frequency into a physical place, such as your body, could be a little bit of a challenge, because the body is programmed to a 3D existence. So when we're bringing the 5D frequency or the 5D elements into a physical plane, it just takes a little bit of integration for this to happen. So this is why a lot of people have ascension symptoms and they feel dizzy, or they feel they have aches and pains, maybe they have other symptoms, headaches, all sorts. So the physical sort of problems that can come out of this are simply uncomfortable sort of problems or uncomfortable symptoms, which can just feel, uncomfortable. But, we are here to embrace the shift and allow ourselves to go with it. So I always say the more you can detox or move your body and let the energy move so that this light can settle into your cells, the better for you. So I recommend a healthy lifestyle, basically, to be able to integrate the light in the best possible way. So today we're talking about the spiritual rebirth. So if you think of humanity as a collective species, we are here on planet Earth together. There are many service souls that have been born into this timeline that we're in right now, who are here to lead the way into the new Earth. So they're here to lead the new way, to channel the new systems, the new solutions, channel new ways of doing things, bring it down here to Earth, ground it, make it happen, right? And this type of change, it's like the paradigm shift, basically. This type of change goes into all areas of our lives, really. So into the workplace, into schools, government, NHS in the UK, all the places, businesses, entrepreneurship. So it goes in everywhere, organizations. And it's kind of, what's important here is that each human, whether you are working in one of those places I just said, or whether you are a coach or a healer or a way shower, it's really important to integrate these energies. So, the paradigm shift energies, the high frequencies, so that you can lead from that place wherever you are. So if you think of, let's say, teaching in schools, what would an awakened teacher look like? How would they teach their children or the children? Maybe they become more empathic, more sensitive to the children's need. Maybe they become more intuitive about the children's needs. So each role that people have in the society, whether they are working in the system or they're working outside of the system, it really does start with each individual. And that's why it's so important to embrace the awakening and to embrace the growth that we're going through, so that we can bring these higher levels of, not just the higher light and the higher levels of vibrations into our bodies, but also bring new ideas and bring new way of doing things so we can evolve as a species, so we can evolve as humanity. So what happens then? A lot of leaders, light leaders, so I include myself as one, we often have rebirths, or it often happens that the person who is meant to lead the way into the new Earth has some sort of rebirth. And I've had 2 of those rebirths, and they're called a reincarnation in the same body. There are other rebirths that happens for people. They can be a walk-in, so that the soul actually walks in. There's a new soul coming in. The person might be 15 or 20 years old, or younger or older. There's no sort of rule on how that works. And the new soul comes in with a higher mission. You may also have a soul rotation, so there's different styles and types of spiritual rebirths. And the 2 rebirths that I had, they are called a reincarnation in the same body. And I'm going to talk to you about those today and how that works, and the symptoms, and why that even happens to people, and, the benefits of it happening, etc. So the reincarnation, so I'm going to explain first what it is. So I just wanted to say as well that I just don't want you to attach to the terminology. Don't attach to what the word is and what it's called. It doesn't really matter. But what matters is that if I say things today that you feel resonate, you may have had one of these spiritual rebirths. So instead of trying, the brain will try to figure out, did I have an RSB, like a reincarnation in the same body? Or did I have a walk-in? Or maybe did I have soul rotation? Oh, I wonder what I had. That's kind of, the conversation that we can have with ourselves. And I just want you to relax. Like, relax your brain. Don't worry so much about the terminology and what it's called, but listen to my words instead, because maybe there will be something that resonates that you feel is true to you. And that means that you probably have had one of these things or, similar. And we can figure that out together, by the way. So if you were then interested to talk to me about it, you can, connect with me and ask the questions via email or social media. So let's just talk about the reincarnation in the same body. So first of all, reincarnation in the same body is the soul resides in the body and decides to leave the body very temporarily, rotate or like spin, and come in with a higher contract than it had before. It comes back into the body and the human self feels quite discombobulated. And it basically means that the human part, or, the ego or the mind, the personality, feels a little bit out of sync. Like, it feels quite discombobulating. It feels like there is a new slate. It's almost like, oh yeah, here I planned out my life to do X, Y, Z. Now all of a sudden, all of that feels really misaligned. And now I've got to figure out a new path. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I'm going to tell you a story now, and I think you'll enjoy this. So when I was about, 21, I think, 21, 22, and I started to do a lot of exploration. I was reading lots of books on quantum physics, trying to learn to understand Akashic records, understanding reincarnation, understanding all the different concepts or esoteric concepts about the soul and why the soul is here, and is the soul eternal, and what is the divine, where do we come from, what is source, the universe. So I was on this really quite intense journey, learning lots of new things, which I did from books at the time. So this was in 1995, 1996. So I don't think the internet was, I think the internet might have been going, but it wasn't the type of internet we have now. So I was learning, reading all these books. I was doing lots of meditations. I was also doing like leaving the body. So kind of lucid dreaming, going into like a deep trance, and then doing some astral traveling, which means that I could go to different timelines and different places through the astral travel, and then come back into the body. So it was more like an experiment. I was experimenting with these things, and I did feel safe. It was fine. I was a little bit scared when I started to try out the things, but it kind of worked out, and, I felt quite excited about it, actually. So I was doing this thing. I had a really good friend at the time as well. I still know this person. And we were doing some meditations together, and we used to do lots of different things that were quite spiritual, grounding, meditating, go to different Buddhist meetings and things like that. So I was kind of exploring different spiritual concepts as well at the time. And then one night, I went to sleep as normal. I did feel like my soul was trying to prepare me for things, because the kind of weeks or 2 or 3 weeks before this happened, I felt really sort of allergic to going to any place where people were smoking. It was allowed to smoke in public places at that time. I think it was banned later on, but I started feeling really sort of allergic almost to going to places like that. I felt really allergic to alcohol, and I just felt like I wanted to withdraw, actually, which was a little bit scary, because I've always been quite an outgoing person, so this felt really weird. And so basically I was withdrawing, and I used to go to bed really early. I remember thinking, normally I'd go to bed maybe midnight or so, but I'd started going to bed really early, like 9, and then it happened. So there was one early morning hours. So I'd say maybe about 4 o'clock or something, maybe. And it was springtime, so I think it was like May. And this was in 1998, maybe April actually. And I basically left my body, but it wasn't like I left my body when I did astral traveling. It wasn't like it was like my consciousness would leave the body when I was doing astral traveling. But this was like I left my body. It wasn't just my consciousness. It's like the soul. I could really feel how I was like coming out of the body and, swaying into the higher planes. And it was really weird. I thought, oh my God, am I dying? Is this how it is to die? I thought. And it's really weird because when that happens, I had this extreme calm and tranquility around me and within me. But at the same time, I was asking these questions like, what is happening? What is this? So it was a very short sort of visit. I went to see the soul or the consciousness of my mum and dad individually. And I said to my mum, you don't need to be scared of this. I am just changing a little bit, but nothing will change like between us. But I will change, as in I will do other things. And she was really cool about it. Like her response in this conversation we had on a higher plane was just like, yeah, great. Thank you for letting me know, sort of thing. And I did the same with my dad. And he got more worried, like he got more sort of concerned. I wouldn't say fearful, that's probably not fair, but more like, oh, are you going to be okay? Is there something I can do, but almost like I'm feeling anxious, about this change. And I said, no, Dad, it's going to be okay. I promise it's going to be okay. So that was kind of it. And then I came back into my body, and I think I woke up pretty much sort of straight away. And I woke up and I looked out into the bedroom and I was like, oh my God, everything looks so different. Everything was the same, but everything looked so different. It's like the energy had changed in the room. It's like I looked through a different lens through my eyes. It was very weird. And obviously I was looking at my body thinking, yeah, I look fine. I don't look dead. I look okay. And that was it. I got up and I thought, God, that was the most weird experience I've ever had in my life. What was that? And the months coming after that was hugely disruptive, actually, because as the days was going on, I knew something had happened in that sort of lucid dreaming or the, leaving the body. And I felt really, what's the word? Like a dark night of the soul. So it's like I felt really down. I felt depressed. I felt like awful. What am I doing here? What am I meant to be doing? I felt really restless. I felt really ungrounded. I just felt really, really crap, basically. I just really did not feel good. And on a physical level, I was fine. I didn't feel ill or like a flu or anything like that. I didn't have any headaches or anything. This was more like emotional, psychological. And spiritually, I was still okay, but I didn't want to meditate. I didn't want to do as much as I had done before. So it was just really weird, really weird. It was like the thing that I loved doing most, which was experimenting, meditating, learning more about the esoteric. Felt kind of like I didn't want to do it. And then I, at the same time, felt so depressed and like so weird. So what happened was, it was almost like it was a soul push. I had to leave my country. I did not know. It was the most odd feeling. I didn't know why the longing was so strong, and there was nothing I could do about it. I just had to go with it. So I was planning to move to London. I was in Sweden at the time, and the friends that I had in Sweden, I felt really distant to them and my family as well. It was just really sad. I just couldn't, it felt like I was escaping, but at the same time, I knew deep down I was not escaping. And yeah, it was just a dreadful time. So even when I was speaking to people, it felt like I was disconnected to them. Didn't feel like I had the same deep connection that I always had with them. Even speaking to my parents, I felt like it was just sort of a monotonous or very sort of mechanical conversation. It didn't feel like it was a deep, heartful conversation. And yet, and at the same time, I felt really depressed. So it was just awful. So I moved to London, and I figured everything out as I arrived. I did have a job. I got a job in hospitality at the time, and I was a croupier working in the casinos, and that was okay because something I knew. I knew about hospitality before from Sweden, so I was doing that. So it kind of gave me a breather in terms of what the heck am I doing? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? Why did I even want to come here? So again, then after a few months, my desire for esoteric stuff started to pick up again. So I was like, oh, thank God. What happened there? Why was I not interested for a few months, So then I started studying on the Faculty of Astrology, which is in Euston in London. And I started to do a course there, and I loved it because then it felt like, oh, I'm doing something that I really love doing. And this was at the same time as I was working. But so it was getting better and better as the time went by. So that was my first reincarnation in the same body. Of course, I didn't know at the time that was a reincarnation in the same body. I had no idea what it was. So I just knew I had a massive shift, a massive change. It's a change of direction in life. And I still couldn't put my finger on why I wanted to leave my country and why I wanted a new experience. But it was, I knew it was a soul calling, but I didn't know why. What was the end result? I had no idea. But I just followed my intuition. I just followed the calling. And then the kind of rest is history in the sense that I was then staying in the UK and carried on. And I eventually left the hospitality industry, and I got I started working in a clinic as a therapist, and the rest is kind of history. So after about a year or two, it was feeling a lot better. Now, the reason for these upgrades is that the soul knew that there was a bigger mission and more preparation to be done for the great awakening, for the shift. And if you think then, so I was 20, 21, 22 at the time, and I think I actually did move when I was 24. But yes, so I was really young still, and from a personal or human experience level, I didn't have at the time, this is 1998. I didn't have the capacity or knowledge or confidence actually, or even experience to hold a spiritual space for people. I don't think also the world wasn't really, ready for it either. So this was, I was in my preparation stage, and I didn't kind of know that, but I kind of figured it out. So this happens, to a lot of service souls, this kind of spiritual rebirth and the upgrade in the contract. So there's an upgrade in the soul contract, basically, that happens that becomes more focused, more focused on the spiritual path, more focused on the actual mission, the spiritual mission. And then obviously I became a therapist. I was working in clinic. I built my business. I did lots of things to build this kind of experience. And then in 2009, I started to learn the divine healing and soul contract, and later on life body activations, and also the business coaching and everything. So there was, a gap there between sort of 1998 to 2009, where I kind of lived my life and I built my business. I met my husband. I had a good time. I went traveling. I did things. So, it wasn't exactly a waste of time. It was just a preparation time really for the next level. So I learned the tools that I use still today. And then I had a second one like this at the birth of my son. And I just want to say this as well. These kind of rebirths happen often when the soul or the human is in a very altered state or is in a trauma situation, such as a car crash or an operation or a very sort of heightened experience. Like one of my clients had one of these RSBs on top of Everest. So he was climbing the Everest and he had an RSB at the top of the Everest. So very sort of life-altering, shifting experiences, whether they are euphoric or whether they are traumatic, is often the case when this type of thing happens. And even like a walk-in can happen, for example, when I have some of my friends who have had walk-ins, and again, that's like a completely new soul coming in. The reincarnation in the same body which I had is the same soul, just upgrading the contract and coming back in. A walk-in is a totally different soul. So that is really discombobulating for the personality. That can actually happen in therapy session as well. So I've had a couple of my friends who've had the walk-ins while they're in having a massage or while they're having healing, or they are having some sort of, some sort of session. So they're like in an altered state. So these upgrades usually happens when there is an opportunity where the personality is either relaxing or completely sort of surrendering. And then this kind of upgrade can happen. So my second one happened when I was on the operation table. I had a C-section with my son and also with my daughter. And I can tell you a little bit about that as well. As I'm going to do it in a minute. And you might think, gosh, what is she talking about? But I had this sort of insight about why I couldn't give birth also naturally. Anyway, I had my C-section. My son was on top of my chest. My husband was with me. I was calm. The surgeon said, you have a bladder that is stuck, like and the adhesions further up in the gut. So we need to sort of detach it so that it comes, bring it down where it should be. It's really important we do this. So we're going to do that. But would you like to go to sleep, as in like general anesthetic, or do you want to stay awake because you're just giving birth? I said, I am not going to sleep. I said, I am absolutely staying awake. Bad decision. Bad decision. It was okay in terms of I wasn't in pain because they were still giving me epidurals and, sort of injections to not have any pain, obviously, or local anesthetic as well through, from the chest down, I suppose. But from an emotional, sort of somatic perspective, it was absolutely dreadful. I could see all the blood. Although they had a screen, there was lots of blood and I was losing lots and lots of blood. And I was feeling quite anxious. But it wasn't like my heart was racing. It was a different kind of anxiousness. So I said to the surgeon, I feel really, really anxious. I feel completely wiped out. I don't know what's happening. It feels like I'm unstable. And he said, okay. So they were checking everything, the ECG, the EEG, all the different, equipment they have to check to make sure you're all right. Everything was fine. Yeah, your heartbeat is good. Everything, all the, the brain waves, whatever, everything was fine. the whole of me, my physical body was absolutely fine. There was no panic. There was no worry whatsoever. All the machinery was looking after and could say that my body was fine. And I said, well, I'm really not. I said, I promise you, I said, I swear to God, I am freaking out. And I can't move my body because I was under, local anesthetic. I said, I'm freaking out. I said, Craig, I'm freaking out. I feel so weird. So they then said, okay, well, we're going to give you a tranquilizer. So I was given some, I don't know if it was morphine or it was some sort of very relaxing drug. So I kind of zoned out. I was like, oh God, I was feeling very sort of weird, but okay. Knocked out basically, but still awake. And I didn't sort of think any more of it. And then my body was absolutely pumped with all these drugs and, the anesthetics. It was just dreadful. My son was okay. He had a traumatic birth because he was stuck in the birth canal for a while before they had to open me up and then pull him out. So that was that. So now here's my side note. And you might find this quite weird and quite interesting. So I plugged in, not at that time, but later on, I was like, why is it? What is that my body cannot give birth? Like, why? So I remember this, and I asked the surgeon as well, and he said, well, if you look at your pelvis and the bone inside the pelvis are meant to open up where the tissue, the vaginal tissue is like opening up as well. And you are opening up and, the baby is coming out. He said the bones that are inside there are not flexible, like normal, like how it's meant to be. And there's nothing wrong with your anatomy, but it's just fused. It can't open, actually. And obviously I don't know if the first surgeon tried to tell me this the first time around, because obviously then I wouldn't have come and gone for trying to have another natural birth. So then at some point, I can't remember when this was, but I went to check with my spirit team, with my higher self, and checked in the high dimensions, what is this? Why is that I could not give birth? Why were the bones in my genetics in that way? And the answer was because where main parts of my soul comes from, we don't do vaginal birth because we are highly evolved species. Like, let's say I'm a Pleiadian, or I feel like I have lots of different DNA in my body, but let's just say that, for example, so maybe in a Pleiadian sort of styles solar system, or some other styles solar system where they are highly advanced, they are very ahead of the civilization on Earth, you don't give birth like that. You basically have your seed and your egg, and it's in an incubator, and your baby's growing in there. And it sounds a little bit clinical and a little bit weird, but it's got lots of love and, have all the unity connection and the heart connection and everything. So it's not like in a laboratory in the sense like that, but it's just different. It's like, I suppose, like laying an egg, but not completely. And that's why I couldn't do it. And some people might say, well, you're bonkers, Jenny. Well, that's what the team told me. That's what the information that I was channeling, and I trust my channel. So that's a little food for thought there for you guys. Maybe you can take it on board, you can take it or leave it. But yeah, so it's a little information. So as a side note, so I had this second RSB. That's why I was feeling so weird. And I didn't know that I had another spiritual rebirth. I only realized that a few months later, because my body was so stretched and my body was so weak after this really quite intense operation births, like all the things. So my focus was very much on physical healing and just emotional healing. I felt very fragile, and psychologically I felt really fragile. So it was almost like a post-natal depression. And it was a spiritual post-natal depression, I suppose. And I felt very fractious, so tender for quite a long time. And then I think it was about 5 or 6 months, when my son was 5 or 6 months old, I went to see my master healer, and we did a session, and we came up. I can't remember all the things, but both of us went, oh my God, I had an RSP, because she was working on my soul energy. She said, Jenny, your soul is still up here in the higher dimensions. Like, it's still not fully back in your body from the birth of your son. And then we both went, oh my God, yes, we both got the message. So, had another RSP. So at that point, I had already had my light body activations and everything. I had my light body work. And she said, look, you just need to go now, and we just wait for another couple of weeks, make sure this session integrates. And then you need a KMR. Like, you need to have the KMR, which is a karmic matrix reabsorption. And that process really helps people who've had spiritual rebirths, but the person must have had all the light body work first. So I was good. I was fine. I could just go and get that done. And what would have probably taken another 2 years to integrate, to actually really get this next level of my soul mission embodied, only took about sort of 6 to 8 months. And I was feeling so much more robust by the time I've had the KMR. So although I felt fractious and kind of broken for a few months, as soon as I had that KMR, I knew, yeah, of course, this is what I had. I could also then work on myself, and I could do have other integration sessions to make sure that this spiritual rebirth was fully embodying, fully grounding into my body, so to speak. And the rest is history. And I also said to my soul, I'm like, that is it. I've got it. I am fully upgraded. The mission is clear. Don't worry. I don't need another one of those. So I've said no to any further RSBs or any other type of upgrades. I don't think I need any more. I'm good. I'm good to go. So, because it's tough. So if you have had any of these spiritual rebirths, feeling discombobulated, feeling like you have gone through this type of, have had a sensitive moment that could either be a traumatic, or where the personality is very relaxed, or like a higher vibrational state moment, and then you felt that there was a shift afterwards, like significant, then you probably have had some sort of upgrade. And yeah, feel free to contact me. I can help you integrate all of those things. And what's really interesting as well, when a lot of people, like, I know a lot of people who are not healers, who's had these type of, some of my clients are business owners, and they, they've had these type of upgrades, and they have no idea what it is. So obviously I help them to integrate these fully, so they become really sort of powerful in their role, and feel good, feel good about themselves. But that's so interesting, right? There's so many people going through this who are not even considering themselves as like spiritual leaders, really. They might just, know that they are sensitive, intuitive, and things like that, but they're not, their role is not to be a healer or a coach. They might have a business, or they might be an author, or, they might be a lawyer. One of my clients is a lawyer, and she's had these upgrades, and one of my other clients in the past, I don't work with her now, she was a surgeon, like a surgeon working in the hospital, and she had these upgrades. And she also said to me, actually, that every time she was putting the anesthesia needle, so she was an anesthesiast. Is that the word? I think so. She was an anesthesiast, and every time she put the needle in, somebody's lumbar, into the spine, or into the lumbar, she felt like she was not in charge. Like she just felt like there's a higher being helping her to know exactly where to put that needle. Because if you put it in the wrong place, you can really damage someone's spine. And she said, I am divinely guided in this work, like 100%. And I've heard that about a lot of other people as well who, do medical work, that they feel like they are working together with a higher power when they do it. And I believe they do. I believe they do at the operation table. I believe that there are many higher beings there helping the surgeons, helping the professionals, and guiding them, really guiding them to save people's lives. Okay, if you enjoyed the episode, why don't you share it and why don't you like it? And I would love if you could write a review. That would be amazing. Then obviously if you're sharing it and if you are liking it, it means that more people that are interested in these type of topics would see the podcast and find it. So I would really love for you to do that, and so that we can reach more people and we can have this global impact and support the spiritual mission that I'm on. So thank you so much for watching. And if you want to reach out to me and have some support and help with your spiritual rebirth integration, I am the person to help you with this, and I have a process for that as well. So feel free to book your alignment call and we will get you on the journey and we will start working together. And for the rest of the day, I hope you have a good day, and I hope the rest of your week is good, and I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to Jenny Lyon's Visionary New Earth Leaders podcast. If you're ready to rewire your subconscious mind, clear your programming and collective conditioning, transform your trauma into trust, and step into your soul's calling and true leadership, or if you're ready to unlock your fullest potential through activating your light body and expand your consciousness exponentially, detangle and clear your past life karma and Akashic records, and setting up for success, launch your online spiritual business, and so much more, then go to jennylyon.love. And if you're receiving value from the show, I would love if you would share it with a friend and give it a 5-star review. Also, you can join me in one of my live free trainings, and you can find it right on the website, as well as in the link in my bio across all social media. I am Jenny Lyon across all platforms. I wish you a blessed day, and may you live your most authentic self.